So I'll tell you all something that I don't normally tell people. I've never really considered myself a storyteller. I grew up in a small town in Southern Virginia. I grew up shy and feeling like an outsider. That town considers itself the peanut capital of the world, but if you Google that, there are 5 other towns who claim that as well. So I avoided the attention required to tell stories to the people around me. But the very thing I didn't want growing up is what I want in the experiences I create. I want the user's full attention. I want their focus and time. I want them to take the time to learn something new and have a moment of wonder. So I like to think of stories as living organisms, all jostling for people's increasingly divided attention and time. As an interactive designer, it's my job to help stories with this challenge. As I begin a project, I ask myself, how do I help this story tell itself? And each project presents new questions. For example, this is a project that I worked on for the Council on Foreign Relations and MediaStorm. The question was, how do you let people explore a story where the narrative is in the numbers? In this case, our answer was an interactive map. The map communicates that public resistance to vaccine efforts is increasing outbreaks of vaccine-preventable diseases. Each circle represents an outbreak, and users can play through the years to see trends and patterns. Now, the challenge of attention is different when you're working with words. I currently work at the New York Times, and our digital group is always trying to find ways to push the story further. We want to make an experience that is not just replicating what's being communicated through text in the article, but building upon it. We want to make sure that we're doing something that can only be done online and allows for a deeper sense of engagement. So to accompany an article about a vocal producer, we created an experience that lets the user pick a combination of audio tracks and compares them to the vocal producers. In doing so, they learn the essentials of what he does, which is to build pop songs from pieces of different vocal takes. Now, some stories require a different approach. In long-form narratives, we want the user to be immersed in a cohesive way. This is a multimedia feature about Elyria, Ohio, a town that represents Anywhere, USA. It was important to give a sense of place, to give a sense of what Elyria is like, so it opens up with a series of full browser-width ambient videos that show moments from the town. But this isn't quite a fully cohesive experience. The multimedia lives separately from the series of articles that it relates to. And this is what often happens with multimedia online. We worked hard to address this problem in Snowfall. Snowfall is a tragic story about 16 expert skiers and snowboarders who were caught in an avalanche in Washington state. My colleagues and I wanted to create a unique kind of reading experience where the multimedia and all the different elements were woven together in a way that felt natural yet surprising. We chose which elements told the story at the right moments in the text, using each kind of media at what it's best at. So for example, just as you're reading about the Cascade Mountains, where the avalanche takes place, you encounter a 3D flyover graphic that gives you a physical context of the story. And in a passage that describes in detail the skiers' and snowboarders' descent down the mountain, a graphic stays in sync with your scrolling to help you really visualize the action. And at the bottom of that, as you're reading the story where they discover a skier at the bottom of the avalanche, you're able to see firsthand GoPro footage of the actual scene. So the process that led to this point involved extensive iteration, as we figured out how to incorporate all the various elements into a narrative flow without distracting from that narrative. We started by mocking up how the various elements might fit together, breaking out the usual New York Times site template. We were thinking of a certain vocabulary for the different elements, from the full browser with graphics to the character cards on the side. And after comping and wireframing, I started coding an initial prototype. We wrestled with how to deeply integrate the video within the text. Here, the video interrupts the flow of the narrative just a little too much. And we also struggled with how to get the transition into and out of the graphics just right. Here, the transition is just trying to do too many things and disrupts from the narrative. With a large-scale project like this, it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to include too much information, too many graphics or visuals just because you have them. So it was really important for us to take the time to step back and refine and edit some more. So preparing for this talk has let me step back and really take a look at the arc of my work. And I realized that even though I really don't like being the center of attention, that yes, I am a storyteller, and right now is a really exciting time to be one. The technology that allows for the availability and creation of the many stories out there also allows for the possibilities of new forms of interactive storytelling. There can be new kinds of experiences across media, across platforms and devices, and even in physical spaces. Our job as interactive storytellers is to find the right form that best serves the story. Our job is to focus on helping each story tell itself. Thank you.